Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Goud Crowd. I am your host, Goud. I don't know why my camera's doing that, so I apologize. I tried to fix it, but I look all like a ghost. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about today. Tracy Halverson will be on at 5:30 to talk about her big lawsuit, and we will ask both questions to learn more about it and tough questions because I have a lot of questions. Let's put it that way. I want to start with some good news, though. I just got this decision. It's hot off the presses. A couple weeks ago, we talked about, let me get this up. I have this problem every time where I can't find what I'm looking for. I think it's this one. Let's see. Okay, there you go. So we had Phil Lyman on. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember, Mr. Producer? Was it 2 weeks ago? Was it last week? Everything just kind of meshes together. What we did, though, is I represent Phil in in one lawsuit that's in federal court under the National Voter Registration Act, where we are trying to get a copy of Utah's voter rolls that includes both the private and the impermissibly withheld voter records. So impermissibly withheld are those that were converted from private to withheld on May 20th of 2020. And so that lawsuit is going on right now. It's in the district court I think it's called the Southern District. So it's District of Utah, but it's going to be down in St. George. So, and what happened there is that the Attorney General's office filed a motion to dismiss. We've responded. It's been fully briefed. We're waiting. And then before they filed that, we filed a motion for summary judgment. And so that case is kind of moving along. We're waiting for a decision on that motion to dismiss. We haven't heard anything yet. There may be an oral argument. If there is, that'll be down in St. George. So if that's something, I'll actually post about it if I hear anything, because if there is an oral argument, there are people that may want to come to see it. Could be kind of fun, exciting. And I think the lawyer from the Public Interest Legal Foundation will probably come. That's Kaylin Phillips. A lot of you guys actually met her if you came to the big press conference we had and the various events we had when we filed that lawsuit. Oh, Mr. Producer says I should describe a motion to dismiss with a summary judgment motion. Okay, so we filed a complaint in district court asking, hold on. We filed a grammar request seeking a copy of the voter rolls, like I said, pursuant to the National Voter Registration Act. Under Utah law, we can only get what are the voter records that are considered public. As a member of the public, you can only get voter records that are public. At this point, it's a very low percentage of voter records that are probably public. At the state level, it's about 60%. In Utah County, it's only about 40%. So the rest of those voter rolls that are classified as either private or withheld, a member of the public cannot get by just making a request. Under the National Voter Registration Act, the federal law does not recognize those state privacy classifications. So, and federal law for voting issues related to federal elections actually preempts state law. So, so under the National Voter Registration Act, we can get a copy of the voter rolls that includes the private. And then we've asked for voter records that were converted from private to withheld on May 12th. So I said May 20th before, May 12th of 2020. After we filed that, we filed a motion for summary judgment, and that is asking the court that is saying there are no disputes of material fact in this case, and we are asking you to enter judgment in our favor. In response to that, the Lieutenant Governor's office filed a motion to dismiss, saying that Phil, who is the plaintiff in that case, that does not have standing to bring this lawsuit because he does not have an injury from them not producing the documents. Now, we've fully briefed the motion to dismiss, and we're waiting for that's a threshold question. Do you have standing or not? If the court first has to decide that before it goes to the motion for summary judgment. So we're waiting on a decision there. We have requested to have oral argument on that motion. The court has done nothing. So I don't know what's going to happen there. On the motion to dismiss, the Attorney General's office, I think, I don't remember the deadline. There's an impending deadline for them to oppose the motion for summary judgment. Then we'll be able to file a reply brief, and then we'll get a decision. And the court could either grant it. If they grant it, then we get judgment. And that means that the Lieutenant Governor's office will have to produce those voter records, and then actually they'll also have to probably pay attorney's fees. If the court denies it, that means that you go to trial. That means that there are disputes of material fact. You have to go to trial to determine what the facts are, and then see what happens after trial. Okay, so that's where that is. I will give you updates as I have them. But this is a separate case. Phil also filed a request for the records or the reports that the Lieutenant Governor's office gets from ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, which it was a group started by Utah. Of course, was one of the states, but it was funded by left-wing groups like the Tide Foundation, which has, of course, Soros funding. Because there is no more evil man in the entire United States, I think, than George Soros, and that guy is just evil. It's unfortunate that he has so much money. It like kind of makes you lose faith sometimes when you're like, if evil people like that can get so much money and then use it for bad purposes, like this is just not, it doesn't work great, right? Because we're all at a disadvantage, but we'll never be rich like him. And then his weird son. Anyway, we have not filed a federal lawsuit for this. It's still going through the GRAMA process. So a couple weeks ago, we had a hearing before the Government Records Office about this appeal. And there's two notable things that came out of the decision. Now, I just assumed, and I think Phil did too, that we were just going to flat out lose this, our appeal, just because it's the Government Records Office. It's kind of slanted against, I don't think that they like Phil over there. They probably don't like me either. I don't know. But anyway, this is actually, we partially won. And I'll say, this is, if you're out there and you're listening and you want to be able to take action, this gives you the ability to do that. The Attorney General tried to get this appeal. Mr. Producer says the records office doesn't like anyone. Yeah, that actually might be true. They like their government. They like the government, not the grassroots. Well, I think we're just an annoyance. But I want to be fair here. This hearing officer, we didn't have Lonnie Pearson. We actually had a designee because Lonnie Pearson, I think we requested that he not be the hearing officer. So we got kind of the designee. And I actually think he did a good job. So I want to give credit where it's due, especially because I just expected us to completely lose this. But one of the arguments that the Attorney General's office made is that you cannot use the GRAMA process to make requests under the National Voter Registration Act. Well, that is no longer true. The hearing officer actually came out and said, you can make requests under the National Voter Registration Act and do it through the GRAMA process. This means that anybody in Utah, if you want to start helping out and being an activist, you can go to your county clerks, you can make GRAMA requests, and you can do it under the National Voter Registration Act. So that means that you can request your voter rolls from your local county clerk and say, I want the voter rolls, including the private voter rolls and those that have been impermissibly converted from private to withheld under the National Voter Registration Act. And you can now try to get this data from them. You can try to get any ERIC reports that they've gotten. I think those tend to be more at the lieutenant governor's level, but to the extent that those are being transmitted down to the county clerk level, for them to take action, you can now use the GRAMA process to get those documents and to get copies of them. And I'm sure this actually probably opens up a lot of possibilities about the types of information that now anybody in Utah can go and request. So this is fantastic. And the thing is like, the reason why it's nice that it's through the GRAMA process is that that's accessible to anybody. and it's cheap. Like the initial request will be free. If they try to charge you something, you should always ask for a fee waiver and appeal it when they don't give you one. But at least this option is there. You can appeal it to the chief administrative officer if you're denied, and then you can take it to the government records office. All of that process is free. So I think this is actually a really good. This is a good decision. I'm happy about it. The second thing is he actually reversed the lieutenant governor's decision on one of our requests. So let's see. Request number 3 was to get it was the duplicate registration report. So this would show voters who have duplicate registrations. So I think in more than one jurisdiction. Yeah, in one or more. So then they had actually denied this, and he said that. Hold on here. He actually said he is unconvinced that the records requested in request number 3 were properly classified as non-public records. The evidence presented concerning whether release of the records reasonably could be expected to interfere with investigations was insufficient. There is no evidence that the records were considered drafts, not subject to disclosure pursuant to 30522. Additionally, it is unclear why release of a list of voters who may have had duplicate registrations would rise to the level of being a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Accordingly, the director designee finds that the records in Mr. Lyman's request number 3 were classified incorrectly and should be provided to Mr. Lyman. So that's a win. So now we had 5 requests for data, 5 requests for different reports that the lieutenant governor's office gets from Eric. 2 of them have been granted. And so now we should get these, unless the attorney general's office tries to appeal it. I don't know if they will or not, but this is great. I think this is great. Like, I'll try to be positive. So this is a good thing. We're making some headway. Okay, let me stop sharing that. Let me just add, if anybody wants to call in, you are welcome to do so. It is 385-899-2134. I always love to hear your comments, so feel free to bring it on. Okay, now we're gonna do a few weird things because we'll have Tracy's thing. I'll kind of talk about this this concept of how our establishment in Utah is attacking the middle class. I really think the establishment GOP is a big problem, and we need to do something about it. Because if you paid attention to those elections that happened, there is a real people are upset that we have not made headway on the issues that they care about at the national level. That's going to bleed down into the state level in these upcoming elections, and people need to be ready for that. And part of the way you get ready for that is you start addressing people's actual concerns about what they're concerned about instead of your donors. All these people care about is their donors. But anyway, I'm going to show you this because this is kind of interesting. I was just looking at Instagram. I don't tend to look at it a lot, but I saw this post by Caroline Gleach. I think, is that how you say her name, or Glitch? She ran for Senate against John Curtis. And so she said, running for office nearly broke me. Not my spirit, but my sleep, my nervous system, my sense of self. Almost a year later, I'm still putting the pieces back together. Very crazy. So then I was just looking, she looks pretty bad in that photo, but then she says, we celebrate candidates for their courage, but we rarely talk about the cost. Running for office can mean risking everything. Girl, tell me about it. Personal financial liability if your campaign ends in debt. Oh, I actually didn't know that. I've never had a campaign end in debt, but whatever. Safety threats, harassment, and online mobs. A nervous system stuck on high alert long after the race is over. Then she says, blah, blah. Oh, it's not just campaign trail speeches and handshakes. It's 12-hour days of quote unquote call time, cold calling donors. I have a friend that I went to my initial training to be a JAG officer with. He's now the Attorney General, I think, of North Carolina. He's a Democrat. But one time he actually told me, I met him. Where did I meet him? I met him at something. And he was telling me that he wanted to run for the Senate. And I disagree with him on his politics, but he's a very talented charismatic guy. So I could totally see why people vote for him. And he said that basically he went to the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, so the DSCC, and they are basically like, if you want to run for Senate, you need to spend what she's saying 12 hours a day making phone calls to all these donors to get money. That's all that matters. And he was like, I'm not doing that. I'm out. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. And then she's got some more like, it's a little bit whiny, I guess, because this is kind of what it's like to run for office. I will say this one's accurate. She says, running for office isn't just a job. It becomes your whole identity. Well, that's a little exaggeration. Okay, but when it ends, win or lose, there's a void. You go from 100 miles an hour to 0 overnight. And so this is actually true. I remember when I ran for county clerk, it was like, go, 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 go. Election happened. It was like, oh, I'm done. And then it's a little bit jarring because you're like, oh, wow, I don't have to do anything. In my case, it was funny because I have 2 dogs. They're out of town right now, and I remember I used to take them for walks every day at 4, but during the campaign, it got all messed up. And then right when it ended at 4 o'clock, both my dogs came and they were ready to go. They're like back on schedule. Let's go. Okay. What I thought was interesting though, so after she does all this complaining, she says, let's see. It's risky. Okay, so she said, da, 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 da. Okay. If you want real people to run, we need, she says, public financing of campaigns, shorter election cycles, open primaries, and ranked choice voting. And then she said, I'm sharing this because honesty is the first step to building a democracy that actually represents us. If you want more real talk about what it's actually like to run for office and how we fix this broken system, follow me. We have a lot more to talk about. So I would say, number one, I'm not sure she's cut out for running for office. Like I said, it can certainly be rough, right? You know, like I ran for office. That part, like I was, and the coverage on her was like unicorns and rainbows. It was Republicans attacking her. That's not how it was for me. It was me like being constantly attacked in the press, which is a very different situation. But the other piece of this, she doesn't understand the solution. The actual solution to what she's talking about in terms of money is the caucus convention system. This same race that she did where she had to spend all day and all night on these 12-hour phone calls, calling all these donors, if you're going through the caucus system, you actually don't need to do all of that because you can run a race much more inexpensively. It's a much more limited audience of delegates who are highly, highly involved and they're engaged. And you have all these events. They will show up to all your events and they will ask you tons of questions. You'll never have a job interview that is that intrusive as delegates. And I mean that in a good way because they're trying to figure out who you are and whether you will represent them well. So to give them credit, way more engagement than you will ever get with the primary. And it's the cost piece is cheaper. The engagement piece is better. And actually it's way more fun than a primary type race. So I would say to her, I think your solution is wrong. You're just like, I understand what you identified as problems, but the actual solution is a caucus convention system that the Republican Party uses. You would have been much better served with that and you would have enjoyed it a lot more. And I don't think you'd be having all these after effects that you're feeling right now. But also, like I said, I'm not sure that you're cut out for politics. So maybe you should, go live your life, do whatever you want to do. Go, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I think before you seemed like you're kind of like she seemed like she was just like a social media influencer before she ran for office. And maybe that's part of it was. Well, no, that's true. So Mr. Producer says, the opponents of caucus say the system is undemocratic because a small number of individuals, the delegates, control the election. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that's undemocratic. I understand that argument. I actually think it's a much better system than the primary one. The primary is all these low information, and no offense, it's just like people that are low information. They're literally like, you guys, I can't, these are the people that are like, I'm not going to vote in person. I can't be bothered to sacrifice 10 minutes to show up to turn my ballot in person. Are you kidding me? What a burden. I am so busy. And then you're like, well, what did you do last night? Well, I watched TV. Like I went to work. I came home. I watched TV, and I hung out with my family. Okay, so you didn't have 10 minutes to go and vote. Well, Goud, I have 5 kids, and it's really, really hard to take them. Take your kids. Like I get. It's like so much. There's so many excuses, and that's the person that's like, if I can't vote in the primary, it's undemocratic. But it's like, your delegates are actually doing all your work for you. I'm telling you, like both times I ran, I went through that caucus convention system, and you start to see a lot of familiar faces. And the first time I ran, I think the number of delegates were like 17 or 1800 for Salt Lake County. I know a lot of those people still because they showed up multiple times at events, and they showed up after I became the nominee. And they were dedicated, and they asked the tough questions. I've never had you will not get that in a primary. A primary is just to send out a bunch of mailers, send out some emails. You go talk to the liberal media. They're not going to be able to make those types of educated choices. A lot of those people think that if they just go online and look at a news article that they've done their deep research, and they really haven't, because you'll never get that kind of in-depth view of someone unless you see them in person. So I'll just say, Caroline Gleach, I just think your solution is wrong. Call me if you want to talk about it. Oh, I didn't know that. Mr. Producer said that's how he met me in person. I had no idea. I thought you don't even live in Salt Lake County. Oh man, that's funny. Okay. We have a little time here. So this is the other one. I had posted about this, and I'm just going to kind of talk you guys through this. I thought this was interesting. I saw this post. It was about the New Jersey race and the turnout situation there, right? So let me show you this. So basically, New Jersey had this race. I'm going to say, I think there's a comp. Oh, okay. I remember that event. Yeah. I totally remember the event. So basically they had this race in New Jersey in the 2024 general election. New Jersey, Trump only lost it by like 5 points. But when it came to this election in last week, it was a blowout for the Democrat, right? And this is the point I think is interesting. So Citarelli, that's the Republican, got 122,000 more votes than he did in 2021. But Sherrill got 450,000 more votes than the last gubernatorial race. And the inner city historic turnout is quite an anomaly. That's what the guy's talking about here. Now, I lived in DC for 16 years. And for 4 of those, I lived out in the suburbs, but the rest of it, I actually lived in the city. And generally, I lived near areas that were not very nice. So I've engaged with people in these types of neighborhoods. And what you find is that there's a group of people that are hard workers. They're just trying to make a better life for themselves. They're trying. But a lot of times those neighborhoods they're crime ridden. The schools suck. And it's hopeless. It's completely hopeless. And people give up. They give up. A lot of them aren't working. There's no opportunities for them. It's sad. And actually, like, the people that govern those places are very condescending towards these types of people. Like, they always think like, oh, Goud, this was that. They can't get their own apartments. You can't do Section 8 housing. You have to do public housing. Like, you can't expect them to go find an apartment. It's very condescending, very insulting. But the one thing, so they may not be able to be involved with their children with school. There's all this crime going on, and like, a lot of there's a lot of single mothers, but they're not keeping an eye on their sons that are committing the crimes. There's gang violence. People they can't be bought, in some cases, they can't even bother to get a job. They're living off welfare. But the one thing that they always do every election is they go and they vote for the Democrats, who have made their situation hopeless. It's bullshit. The voter turnout in these areas is manipulated because I don't believe that people that live lives like that are going to even be motivated to go and vote. It's the biggest crock of crap I think I've ever heard in my life. And they need to dig when you come up with these types of anomalies. I think Utah is a little bit different because we don't have, I mean, our biggest city, I think Salt Lake City only has a couple 100,000 people in it. And it doesn't have that type of inner city, complete, just awful places like you see more. I think you see it like in the bigger areas, California, the eastern part of the United States. But when you see those types of anomalies, you want to dig. I don't think that those people were actually voting. I don't think she got 450,000 more votes than Murphy got 4 years ago, and I think he had a historic high. So this type of growth, and that did not happen, and they should dig deeper. That's what I would encourage them to do. And like when you hear stories like that, you should always ask questions. I think we learned from 2020 that the Democrats will cheat, and then they'll gaslight you with their safest and secure election in history. Why are you talking about the big lie? The answer is we will talk about whatever the hell we want. Get out of here. Okay, let's talk about this before Tracy comes on. So there was a challenge to the Obergefell decision, right? This is a decision from the Supreme Court. I think, was it 2012, where they found the constitutional right to marriage in the U.S. Constitution. And there was an opportunity for them to now, there's a challenge to the decision, and there was an opportunity for them to take up the challenge and I think reverse that decision. Now, there's different ways people approach this, right? My own view is I want the Supreme Court to be an originalist when they are interpreting the Constitution. And so I think this Obergefell was a horrible decision. If you read it, it's embarrassingly bad. It's stupid. They basically are looking at what they call the penumbras around the Bill of Rights. There's these penumbras, and they reach in there and they find like there's a new right to dignity for gay people. And I'll tell you this, the decision itself is dangerous because I think it elevates gay marriage to the equivalent of the free exercise clause, the free expression clause, like your right to free speech. And it is very dangerous. And let's all be real about this. When the Democrats eventually take control of the Senate, they're going to nuke the filibuster, and they're going to pack the Supreme Court, and they're going to use that decision to make it so religions have to recognize gay marriage and start doing them. They're going to force the cake baker to bake the cake, and I'm telling you, the dangers of what are coming because of this decision are not good. It's unfortunate they didn't take this up. I see a bunch of gay conservatives celebrating. See, I told you guys, they're not going to do this. And I'm like, dude, this decision's horrible. We should want it overturned. The question is whether you're principled or not. I view this as the decision was bad. I don't want poorly reasoned decisions coming out of the Supreme Court because we're looking for a particular outcome. That's what this is. This is people who are celebrating the outcome without looking at the reasoning. The reasoning is bad. It's dangerous for other things, and they can now create any right they want out of that type of a decision. So it's unfortunate that this happened. I wish they had taken it up because I do think they need to overturn it. And this is a state issue. Although I will say they did pass that. They passed like a federal bill last year when Biden was president, protecting gay marriage anyway for their statute. So it had no impact. That's okay. You did it through the legislature. That's how this stuff should happen, not through the courts. Okay. I think we have Tracy on, so let's bring her on. Let me stop sharing this. Hey, Tracy, how are you? I can't hear you. You muted?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Okay, let's see here. So we're gonna. Oh, hey, Mr. Producer, will you put that website up, the Utah corruption one? Let's see if I figure I should. Oh, and okay, we have Tracy Halverson on. She has just filed a big lawsuit. We'll be talking about that. Mr. Producer wants to know he loves your camera.
Oh. Tell him thank you. Thank you, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, and I like your hair. It's well done.
Thank
I've been noticing people's hair lately. I don't know if you noticed. I posted about Candace Perucci. I think she debuted a new hairstyle because I think we're coming for an announcement soon. I'm speculating a little bit, but we'll see. She's got kind of. I think she's looking better. Like I like it. Like better. I like the hair. I like the outfit. I can appreciate that. I don't like the candidate if she's running for something, but hey, it's all good.
Right.
I'll give credit where credit's due. Okay, so why don't you tell us about, give us like a 1 minute summary, like elevator pitch. What is this lawsuit about?
This lawsuit is a RICO case against elected people and some party people, that state officers, and even like the Davis County clerk. It is a summary. Like, if we just go real quick first through our website, and then I'll come back to and summarize what it is. But if you go to utahcorruption.com, you can join the class action by clicking that. You can donate to the fund, and this is going to be used for things like, informing people about this case, doing, what do you call the billboards? So that's what that will be for. And then we're trying to get up to 5,000. So spread it to anybody, because anybody can join. You don't have to just be a Utahn. But then the next section, if you scroll down a little bit further, Mr. Producer, it'll explain in a summary of what the actual case is about.
Okay.
And it'll tell you the signature trick, and it describes what the guts of the lawsuit are. And then if you scroll down a little bit more, you can hear the basic story. So if you scroll down a little bit more further down, and you'll see the actual documents that you can look and read them. And the amicus brief is someone's already filed to support. His name's Dr. Fleming. He's a doctor and an attorney, and the government's been weaponized against him. That's why he became an attorney. And then you'll see the motions that we've been filing, and then all our exhibits in there that you can look at. And there's 92 exhibits. But the case is really about the stolen state convention process. Most people don't understand that the convention is a designated primary election. And so when there's any shenanigans going on in the convention process, you can be charged for that. Like, it can be become a crime. They've got actually even state code about it. So
okay. So yeah, let me ask you about that, because let's go back up up you had let's start with this. So you're saying that this is a way to let's say you have the convention process, right?
Mm-hmm.
The convention process. Isn't Utah statute provides a mechanism to be able to challenge the results of that statute? In this case, we're way past that deadline. So I guess maybe tell us about what makes this case different than going through the state process that we already have.
So are you talking about the law?
Yes.
So the law doesn't say they can force signature gathering upon a political party. So when they took this this case, SB 54 in the language has already been challenged. And the reason why the courts kept ruling like, what's wrong with you, party? You're not harmed, because the law never forced signature gathering on us. And so when the party sued, they're like, you're not harmed. What's wrong with you? You have your convention process. You can still use it. We don't know it. It's just not right, is what they kept saying. And that's because it was the application of the law, the way they were applying it. Because the courts originally were just looking at the law and saying, you still have your convention process. It's either or. You don't have to do both. So there is no harm. What happened?
So is that decision then that says that, is that in the Utah Supreme Court? Or
that's
is that
all the way up to the 10th Circuit.
10th Circuit, okay.
Yeah, and so the 10th Circuit, there was one dissenting opinion, and it was Justice Timkovich, and he's like, oh no, the way this is applied, it's going to, he predicts it. Like, he says it's going to shatter this party, and there's going to be infighting. and you're going to end up with a different candidate than that comes out of convention than you do out of a direct primary. But he again says, but again, it's not right because the party was suing and the law did not say that. It was the way they were applying it. There's section 20A-9-407. That is the convention section. That's the convention process. And in that code, it says if a candidate gets nominated to either the general ballot or to the primary ballot, the party is supposed to certify the names to the lieutenant governor, and she's supposed to take it and put them on the appropriate ballots. She has no authority to say, you have to allow signature gathering. None. So she usurped her authority when she went and put those signature gatherer candidates on the ballot of the Utah Republican Party, because we don't pick our candidates that way. We use the convention process only. And so the 60% or more get nominated to the general ballot. And the top two get, if nobody gets 60%, the top two are nominated to a final primary ballot that's sent out by the state. So when she placed those names on that ballot, she created a counterfeit ballot, and then she put it in the mail. And she turned around and did it twice. But what they've done is they've taken to social media and email, and they've tried to convince the people that they're valid candidates when they're not. They were disqualified at the convention. And when they did this, it's wire fraud, because it's on the wire, it's on the social media, it's going across the wire, the internet, trying to convince them, everybody, of this fake signature gathering process, that they can even use it to go around the convention process. And the law doesn't say that. And additionally, Michael Clara has done an amazing job, and he's shown, they frauded the fraud. Like, they didn't even get the signature. So it's unconstitutional in the first place. So it's null and void the way they're applying it. But how the legislature would never help us? They were like, oh, it's never going to pass. Well, you've left the Utahns with a broken system that's vulnerable with fraud. And so that's pretty much the RICO case.
Okay. So when I went through the lawsuit, I guess I'm wondering if I didn't see a lot of case citations.
It's on its merits.
Is there, I guess, is there precedent for the lawsuit and also the remedies that you're asking for? Just for people who don't know, I am a lawyer. So when I go and I'm drafting a complaint, I look to see, here's a case. This is kind of a similar concept or the same one. I'm going to take this, I'm going to cite it, and kind of use this as my guideline to write out and make sure I hit the elements that we need to be able to satisfy the court, get past the motion to dismiss and things like that.
Yeah, so that's all in the preliminary injunction. I don't know if you read the preliminary injunction, but
I didn't get a chance to do that, no.
Yeah, I quote a ton of case law. I'm a paralegal by trade. I've been since I was 16 years old. I've worked in a law office, and I pretty much write the cases in from the attorneys that I've worked for. So I know what I'm doing, but no lawyer would ever challenge a judge. That's too, it's scary because you've got your bar license. That's your livelihood. You tick off a judge. What are they going to do to you? And that's what we've done here. They're
not going to rule in your favor. That's what they're going to do to you.
The judge here is Justice Durant, because what he did to Phil Lyman when he challenged the primary results, he illegally just dismissed it. And there's a specific code that says, even if you didn't write it right, you can't just dismiss it. He didn't. And on that court docket, if you look at the court docket, it says attorney called. And I'm like, what attorney called? Who called? And the court clerk would just tell me, well, it just means someone called. So I'm like, so somebody from the attorney general's office called and said, get rid of it. That's what you're pretty much, or let it die. But we filed a motion to expedite, so they had to respond. And so he just automatically dismissed it. And so I guess for your questions of, is there any precedent? Case law gets overturned all the time. So anybody that just relies on case law, I would say, well, things get overturned all the time. But the Utah Constitution actually has in it that when there is an office declared vacant, the election is held the next general election. And that's what we're asking for. So yes, there is a remedy. It's written in our Utah state constitution. and the office is vacant because those were disqualified candidates. The election wasn't even real. It wasn't with the right nominee. They were disqualified through convention. Even Derek Brown was disqualified.
So, okay, I don't know about the provision that says you can declare an office vacant, but I guess, I mean, talk about is there precedent for that? Has it been done in the past?
Oh, I don't know if anybody's ever died, because that's pretty much what it's for, is that you can die in office and then you declare office vacant. You can show that that person didn't really get elected. The office is vacant. So I don't need precedent. There was always a first case for everything that has allowed for it. I mean, if the Utah Constitution says that, and the judge can provide for it, then.
Okay. There was another piece of this I thought was kind of interesting. In terms of, God, you just said something that. Well, let's talk about standing. You have kind of, there's you and a few other plaintiffs who were delegates, right? So I kind of understand the standing there, but there was one plaintiff who actually is an independent voter or an unaffiliated voter, and his claim to an injury is that he chose not to be involved. Or not
so
to vote,
there is case law about this, and I can point to you. There's case law that talks about you have a right to choose not to be affiliated with a party or even a union. This applies to unions, and you still can get the same. You should still be able to allow for the system to work correctly, and then you can choose later to associate. So if, say, I don't want to be part of the party because it's corrupt, but say the system worked and there was a candidate, and now I can associate with that candidate at the general park. There's already case law about that. They talk about that even with unions, like the teachers unions. If the people don't want to associate, if they bargain an agreement for them, that's okay. They get the same equal treatment. So yeah, there is precedent on that already. And that's what I was trying to show, that this is not a Republican Party issue, not at all. They're just using the Republican Party as the vehicle to carry out this corrupt system. Because if you have an executive department that's willing to cheat, a justice department that's willing to protect it, and a legislative department that's not willing to help, and then you have political party leaders that stifle any dissent, you can still win an election. And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, I tried to warn people back in August and nobody listened. I wrote a notice of intent and they all said it was mean. Notice of intents are not mean. They're giving you a chance to correct it.
You're mean.
Yeah, you're mean, Tracy. And I'm like, no, you guys could have stopped it back in August and September before those final ballots went out. But they refused to. And that's where you get RICO. You get the collusion among all of them and the meeting of the minds. And to prove civil RICO, you just need substantial evidence. You don't even need a criminal one. But this is going to open the door for discovery.
Okay. This is what I want to ask you. So you also said the piece about mail fraud. So they put the ballots have been put into the mail. You're saying that they were illegal ballots? Was that
counterfeit? There's a code in Utah code. There is election return offenses. By definition, the election return is the ballot. And so when she placed disqualified candidates on that ballot, she created a counterfeit ballot and then she put it in the mail. Okay.
Now, her argument will be that they were qualified under the statutes in existence.
No, because 420A-9-408 doesn't apply. And to tell you, I've had a couple of the top JAGs review this, and they said it's good.
Top JAGs?
Like, aren't you a JAG?
Yeah, but I'm not here.
No,
not today.
No, not today. But no, some of the it's at the top United States, and it's a lot of people are like, going after she doesn't have a thing. And they haven't even read it. Most people will say that. And I'm like, well, did you read it? No. I'm like, I would probably read it because I've got they add 3 attorneys every day. I think they're up to 13. And
on their side.
So they know.
Okay.
And I did a motion to strike their attorney's representation because they usurped their authority. And so there's a Utah code that says that a court can order that they not use taxpayer money to defend them because they.
I was going to ask you that. Okay.
Yeah. So I've already filed that motion to strike today. We filed a motion to join the United States as a plaintiff because they have interest into this. They have guaranteed us under the Constitution a representative form of government. And the Utah's state convention process, it's the state's convention. It's not the parties. It's their convention process that they delegate to the parties to run. And it's the closest to representative form of government. You think about it, you go to your caucuses, your neighbors elect you, and then you go on and you represent your precinct and you elect a nominee to go to either the general ballot or the primary. But it's a representative form of government, and our state doesn't have it. And most of those kind of cases, they'll say, oh, that's political. No, it's not political because it doesn't apply to a party. It's just that's the state's convention process, which they are violating when they disenfranchise the caucus votes and then the convention votes because the delegates are representing their neighbors.
Okay, hold on. Look, I just want to go back to that. So you're saying that isn't it in Utah though? Isn't it only a Republican Party issue? Because I thought the convention process only applies if you're a qualified political party. I think the Republican Party is the only one. The Democrat Party doesn't have the convention process.
Yes, it does. They choose not to use it. They're all qualified. A lot of people don't understand a registered political party and can be both. Like you can have a registered political party and be a qualified political party. If the Democrat doesn't use the convention process, they chooses not to, which I don't think that's true. I think they do use the convention process.
They have a convention. I don't think it's to select candidates though, because I think you can actually just get signatures to get on their primary ballot. Then
they're just using the regular primary, which is also an option. You don't have to use the convention process, but it's available to everybody. The Utah Constitution Party uses it because they called me and they said, when I was working on this, and they said, we have been trying to tell the Republican Party that they are not applying the law right to you guys. But they said, no one listens. Well, I understand why no one listens because they're part of the system. They're part of the RICO. So the Utah Constitution actually helped clear up SB 54. When it was originally passed, it was a jungle primary. And that allowed unaffiliated voters to vote in that primary. Well, that got ruled unconstitutional. And then HB 48 in 2016 cleaned that up. So it closed it back. So now the signature gatherers, there was no way they could get to that ballot because it closed the ballot back up.
Okay. Interesting. I want to go back to the point about the lawyers for the defendants. So maybe tell us a little bit more about that. I don't know if we know which offices have stepped up to represent the defendants. And I'm kind of curious here isn't your allegation that these people were acting in their official capacity when they took these actions?
Acting in their official capacity, but under color of law. And that means I'm acting like, say, Deidre, she's acting as lieutenant governor, but she's saying, I have the authority to put these people on your ballot. And she doesn't. That's color of law.
Okay.
So yes, but there's Utah code that says if they break the law like that and they're acting under color of authority, the state won't represent them. And if the state doesn't, it says allows the court to order that no, you can't represent. So that's what I did, the motion to strike, and refer to that code because they shouldn't be representing them. And in fact, the state should turn around and sue them for the people because of what they've done.
I'm just imagining that.
Yeah, like I know, right? All the corrupt lawyers will be like, "Gasp! No, that we're supposed to protect the corruption." But yeah, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attorneys just from the AG's office. Brian
Wow.
McKenzie, I think, has hired his own attorneys. He has 3 attorneys. So I guess you know when you're in trouble, you know what to do. So he has 3 attorneys.
Okay.
Matthew Durant has 5 attorneys because he has the 4 at the state and then he has 1 at the courts. And poor little Rob Axon and Kim Coleman and Chris Null do not have attorneys. So I guess they got left out in the
You must be. They must like you a lot. Aren't you on the state central committee? Like, how are they responding to you when you go to meetings?
Well, no one's talking on. Well, Gunnar Thorson, he or how do you ever say his name? He kicked me out of the group me chat, and so I included that as an exhibit because he called me a nasty woman, and he hopes that the Salt Lake County chair knows the assignment. That's what he said in a chat. I'm like, huh?
Oh, what does that mean? Did you ask him what that means?
Well, they kicked me out, so I don't know what it means. So I just attached it as an exhibit for the United States government and said, "Yeah, you better step in here." Yeah.
I don't like that. That's very
the rest of them online, they're quiet because I guess they figured out what wire fraud was.
Okay, now talk about. Okay, hold on. So let's go back to the mail fraud issue.
Okay.
Is there precedent for what you're saying in terms of a ballot being considered mail fraud?
I don't know if there has been, but according to our law, it is. Because that's what a counterfeit ballot is. I mean, and who else could make one? Like, I couldn't make a counterfeit ballot. You couldn't, because it's not going to come from you. Yeah, no, nor would we. But that law directly applies to her and her, because she's certifying to the rest of the county these ballots. And yeah, that's a counterfeit ballot.
So, I mean, it's kind of a novel. Look, I'm not, like I've told you before, like, just so people understand, like, we're friends. So, like, you know, if I'm challenging, it's not out of any bad faith. Like, I've always like, look, I'm skeptical, but I'm always happy to be proven wrong. And certainly with legal stuff, you can make novel arguments. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not. So I'm not asking these questions to be like, this is dumb. I'm just asking because I think people should know, like, this is a novel issue. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's novel. That's all.
Yeah.
And especially because, you know, with the mail ballots, if you really think about this has become widespread in terms of the use of mail for voting.
Yeah,
and I'm just surprised then that this type of an issue hasn't come up in the past.
I've been getting calls from everywhere in the United States saying, this is happening in our state, exactly what's happening in our state. This is happening exactly in our state. Can we take parts of your RICO and use it? I'm like, yeah, it's out there for you to use. Anybody. So people are going to start doing it because I guarantee nobody will ever want to do all universal mail-in ballots ever again. Because if you cheat and you put it on there, it's mail fraud. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, maybe they didn't know. They did know. In 2021, Dan McKay ran a bill that would have really clarified, and nobody could have twisted it, that you could do the convention only. But it allowed 75% or 2/3 or more, you would go to general ballot. It was actually, he put it in code. That was good. That was on its 3rd reading during the 2021 general session coming out of the Senate. So, you know, if it passes in the Senate, it's going to pass in the House. And it was on its 3rd reading and it was going to pass. And they circled it that on a Friday, the Friday.
What does that mean when they circle it?
That means they pause it. Like, it just goes back. And so it gets paused and it goes back on. And well, the following Saturday, the next day, there was a meeting with Dan McKay at the governor's mansion. Cox called it. And so right now I'm like, oh, there's no separation of powers. You got an executive department now telling what bills you want coming out of there. So Dan McKay, Kirk.
Well, I mean, but to be fair about that, he's the governor, so like
it's supposed to be separate branches.
But he can veto.
He can veto
a bill,
but he should not mess with the process.
But communicating that. But I would say, but part of his job is to communicate what he will and will not veto to the legislature.
That's
so they're able
wrong.
to kind of,
And it's wrong.
you don't think he can do that?
Nope. If you go back and read the Federalist Papers, each branch of department, each branch of government was supposed to be separate. So he can veto it, but if you just follow the Constitution, you're not going to be passing these bills that are giving $1 billion to billionaires. But he told
that's like a Utah special, though.
Yeah. Unless you're a state Republican or Republican.
They don't have to have a secret meeting for that. You understand, right? They all agree on that. I'm just saying that when they don't agree on something, they have a secret meeting so they can figure out what they agree on, right? I mean, okay, but you're saying that they should not even have that meeting.
They shouldn't even happen this meeting. Nope. Okay. So Dan McKay, Kurt Bramble, Derek Brown, he was the chair at the time, Spencer Cox, Mike Levitt.
Was Utah's first gentleman there by any chance?
No, not that I know of, but Stuart Adams was, and at the time Brad Wilson was, and the bill died. So if that bill would have cleared Spencer's lie about the signature gathering process and Deidre's lie, they wouldn't have been able to lie, and Trent Staggs and Phil Lyman got over 2/3, so they would have just went on. They couldn't have used the lie, but Spencer had to kill that bill because that ruined his signature gathering lie. That would have made it clear that you can't use, or that you can use the convention only process instead of his stupid fake lies that he's pushed since 2016, that he is king and he gets to decide how the Republican Party is going to choose their nominee. So,
but all he did, I mean, I would assume, unless you're saying something else happened, that they had a meeting. He said, "Hey, look, I don't support this bill. I'm going to veto it."
No, Brad Wilson said they talked, and I mean, he went on a podcast and said he talked, and they worked it out, and there it was, like that. Then it just died. So to me, that's a meeting of the minds to keep that signature gathering process. There's you go. Now your legislative department's not going to do anything for you. So again, you've got your executive department will cheat, your legislative department that won't do anything about it, and your judicial department that will protect it. And that was not the way our government was supposed to work. There were supposed to be separate checks and balances on each other. And now it's just like this big corporation that they're all working together.
Okay, but so I just want to play this out, right? So like they could have gone to that meeting. Governor Cox could have said, "Hey, I was hoping the first gentleman would be here. He couldn't make it tonight. And I just want to let you guys know that he's really unhappy with this bill, and I live for him." So for those of you who don't have, a little facetious, and then he says, "Hey, look, I don't like this bill. I'm going to veto it." And but you guys, but then they can go, "Okay, we're going to pass it. Guess what? We have veto-proof majority. Go for it." And then they go back to pass it. He vetoes it. They override the veto. They've done that with bills. I guess I'm just trying to understand. That seems like a very normal part of the process.
No, it's wrong. And I don't care if they've done it all the whole time. They cannot interfere with. There's even a code in Utah code that says you cannot influence like that from another executive department. It's in the administration of government. There's a whole section of. It's criminal. It's under the criminal code of administration of government. And it says in there that they cannot do anything to influence or to kill a bill. It's illegal what he did. And Governor Levitt was there with him. So that might be his.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, Phil was on the show, Phil Lyman, and he talked about when he was in the legislature, how they would pressure you to
and it's wrong.
Bills, right?
It's illegal. It's illegal. That's what I'm trying to tell. The way the government is up there, they're supposed to be doing work for the people, not the executive department. That's not their job. They're supposed to be standing guard and watching over our freedoms. And say somebody's selling our information, they can say, "No, that's protected. They need the right to privacy." But instead, they're like, "No, our buddies need to make money, so don't do that. Let's keep it open." The direction is not supposed to come, because Phil even tells that it comes from the top down. That is not the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to come from the bottom up, from the people. And they're passing laws that are coming from Cox, which is illegal, and I can prove it. They cannot do what's coming from the top down. It's supposed to become what harms are the people having. So there's a whole criminal section of administration of government. So,
well, I've never heard anyone actually being prosecuted for that.
Well, you
that
wouldn't in Utah, because look, they've got the AG in their pocket. So no, you haven't heard of it because the government's never worked like it's supposed to.
Okay. Wire fraud. Now, I guess the claim is that posting on social media about this is now about is considered wire fraud,
because the law did not say that. The law did not say that the government can force signature gathering and force a second chance on the qualified political party. And so that's what they did. It's almost like a Ponzi scheme, I guess. Like, I'm going to tell you, hey, Goud, I've got this, and I go online and say this. Oh yeah, I got this, and it's fraud. Like, they never had the ability to do that. So when they went on and took to social media, and even the day after he lost, or that Monday, I can't remember, I've got an exhibit in there that is an email saying those delegates are extreme and they don't have the authority to pick their nominee. You do. And so right there, he sent an email that crossed the internet across multiple servers. That is wire fraud, because he's trying to convince people that the delegates don't nominate. Well, yes, they do, through the convention process. The law says yes, they do.
Okay, I guess. So does that apply to anybody?
What's that?
So now, who does that type of
that only
restriction
applies
apply
to the
to?
government.
Because people lie all the time in emails and social media posts.
That applies to the
government. Our media posts fake stuff like every day. So.
Well, they could probably be included on a RICO case, because I'm serious. If it relates to the government, that is called wire fraud. That is, the whole RICO Act was written for this type of organization. Like, that's what it was written for. And if you're telling somebody that, oh, I get a second chance because I paid $1 million to the signature gathering company. Oh, who cares if they mess up my signatures? I have more money than you. I'm going to get a second chance. That's wire fraud. Because he gets on there and goes, look at me, I got 28,000 signatures. I can do this. The law doesn't say you can. And so when you say that online and you're getting a vote for it, you're getting a vote, you're getting someone's vote with it, that is a very valuable property. So yeah, it is wire fraud. That's no different than me selling you snake oil and you giving me money for it. And me telling you it's something like magical dust.
Okay, wait, so Higher Ground says, Goud, the first gentleman joke never gets old. Is it a joke? Okay, this wire fraud piece. So you're saying it could apply to anybody. So like if I post something, everything I post is always true.
No.
But if I post something that's not true, would it be wire fraud? Or?
No. If you're posting something that's lying to get something out of the person. So when they said, look at us, we get a second chance, we want your vote. They're getting a vote from you. That is wire fraud. They're receiving something in value. If you go out and you tell somebody, I don't know, it mainly to me applies to the mafia and these people, the government, the corrupt organization, because they're lying to the people for something of value. They're lying. It's like Ponzi schemes. They're lying to you for something of value. It's just not money. It's your vote.
Okay. Is there precedent for this, or is this like a little bit more of a novel argument?
No, there's precedent, because that's how Trump took down the mafia in New York. And Mayor, what's his name? Giuliani. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they took them down. They did the exact same thing.
Wire fraud.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Although when they did that, that was really, because wasn't that kind of pre-internet? I feel, or for like,
still,
I mean, I guess there was email, but it wasn't like it is today.
Email, it's text messaging, it's It's anything that goes across the waves, across the wires. So I'm telling you that RICO cases or the RICO Act's been around for a while. There's a lot of precedent. People don't even know. You should go on the DOJ and look up RICO cases. There's a ton of them. There was another mayor that did the exact same thing that got, I don't remember where it was. But there was a mayor that happened the same thing. They got charged with RICO because they lied to the people. It's a serious job. People think that being a delegate or being a representative isn't like that nothing can happen to them. No, you lose immunity. I gave them notice of intent too. So there's all immunity. They can't say I didn't know or I didn't understand. I mean, Mike Schultz kicked me out of his office when I took him the notice of intent. And I told him, hey, this isn't to be mean. It's to give you the chance to do what's right. And he still didn't do it. He didn't care. It's because they're all getting money. It's like they're funneling money back through the government. So,
well, okay. So
right.
Do you think, I guess, like on that money piece, what are you saying? Is it donors giving them money? I know you've listed a bunch of donors who are defendants.
No, they're not. They're non-party co-conspirators. So I didn't sue them, but I mean, the government, I guess, could criminally charge them, but I didn't sue them because they weren't part of the election. I only sued those that have authority to do something to stop it. And so they're named as non-party co-conspirators. But yeah, I mean, Ron Mortensen pointed out Matt Lusty getting money for his organization for that, convince the people that we have in a housing crisis. That was $2 million. You know, it's like, where's all that money going? And I've heard that they ask for like fees. Here's a consulting fee. They get paid consulting fees for getting these things passed through. And I mean, you look at some of them get great seats at the hockey game, or some of them gets great seats at the Bees game. It's quid pro quo, and but they are funneling money back to each other. Kim Coleman owns a school. She started a school with her husband, and that gets allotted $16 million. Like it's insane.
What?
To me. Yeah.
What school is this?
It's the Montessori, or let me look it up again, but that's why they don't want it to end. And I don't know if you saw, I think it's Jamie Renda gets $1,500 or $150,000 or whatever it is. It's really, really sad what's happening, but it's through those stupid schools that they're getting all the money from.
Look it up. I'll read these comments.
Okay.
Look it up. Oh my God. So Disagree Butter says, you are right. Tracy's hair is great. 3 out of 2.
Ooh.
He's got a very, I would normally got a 10. 2 seems like you're like, I feel like there's not enough room there to really judge this. Higher Ground says, Tracy is killing it. Great hair, great argument. Your hair's really taken off today. And then Higher Ground also says, the feds can cite the Commerce Clause to intervene in a local criminal case. If the perpetrators used a camera made in China, they can intervene in a number of novel ways if motivated.
Yep. So it's Monticello Academy.
I don't do criminal law, so I'm not going to correct that. I don't have to. It doesn't sound crazy. Monticello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
they're receiving federal money or state money?
Oh, I think it's both. But if you go up onto that new the Utah Transparency, that's where I looked it up, and $16 million. And
that's state money if it's coming through. If you see it in Transparent
well, you
Utah,
remember the scholarship that they ran, that scholarship money, guess who benefited from that?
Oh, is that the Governor's Honors Academy one? The one where
no, the scholarship. I know Higher Ground knows what it's about. It's the.
Is it run by Coleman? Kim Coleman?
No, but it allowed for state money to go to private schools. So it allowed for people to use state money to pay for their students' private schools. And so that's where it's going.
Oh, you're talking about
Utah fits all.
Utah fits all. Okay, got it. That's what they're using.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
that's
Well,
why.
I mean, but that's not a state grant. That's individuals choosing to go and take their kids to that school.
$16 million is what's going to that school. You can look it up on transparencyutah.gov and see where it's going. But that's why they don't want the system to stop, because that's why they protect it. You're getting somebody in there that starts repealing all this stuff and gets the taxes taken care of. I mean, 20% in Salt Lake County, it's because they're stealing our money.
Yeah, tell me about it. You know, the part that always disappoints me about property taxes is that I don't think people understand that, you know, like your biggest expenses are taxes. And so when the government is constantly doing these 15, 20, whatever, some places 80% increases in your property taxes, that's inflation. And that actually takes away a massive amount of money from you that you could go, like I mean, like you have to work so much harder because we all are spending like half our income on taxes.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to see these, I'll tell you, it's maddening when you see the videos of people that are like, I didn't get my SNAP benefits and here's all my pop that I bought with it. And I'm like, why are you buying that? Why am I paying for that? Or bottled water? Why am I look, you know what I do? I take a cup everywhere I go. I don't buy bottled water. But I use my own money.
Right.
You get to it is very maddening.
Yes, it is. It is.
That's probably why they don't want social media, is because now you get to see all these crazy people doing their video. And then you're like, and you have time to do videos, but you don't have time to go get a job. Okay. So I think I have a better sense of what you're doing with the wire fraud piece of this. Then in here, how is it going with trying to, so like, you know, when you file a lawsuit, I'm just going to give a little background. You actually have to go and you have to serve all of your defendants with the lawsuit, right? And usually you're going to try to do that personally. How is that going?
Oh, it went well. We've already got them all.
Okay.
The governor, we saw his wife and we started running to try to give it to her, but her detail would not let us even near her. But yeah, we've got all of them. I need to put out the rest of the videos, but the funniest ones I already released, the best ones. And Chris Knoll was hiding. Like we were outside and we could hear him like in there going shh, 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 like bumping into each other. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Just answered the door. I told you it was like, because they know once you file, I mean, it notifies everybody. You know how that is.
Didn't you post about it?
Yeah.
Well,
here's my 20-pound complaint. But once you file in the courts, in federal court, there's a system that just shoots out whoever's signed up to receive notifications. So the state was like notified like that as soon as I hit. And it took me a week to print it. And I had a couple patriots helping me, and their printers all had to be maintained afterwards. Like the repair guys had to come to help. And my printer just broke. So it was a lot of paper. So it's not some frivolous lawsuit. It's a 20-pound, that complaint almost weighed 20 pounds. And it took me a long time to put it together because I wanted to make sure that it was solid, and it is. And I hope the United States comes in, because if not, then they become a part of it.
As a defendant.
I already got a clerk that I can put as a defendant. So what they do to pro se, they treat us different. When you file a pro se, they automatically give you a magistrate judge. They don't give you a choice. That's unconstitutional. Then when you file preliminary injunction, when I did, then the magistrate judge says, oh, I can't review this case. This is got a preliminary injunction. I can't do that. So they refer it back to and have it assigned to an Article 3 judge. but the local rules of the court automatically sign it back. So you have 2 judges on it. So the magistrate judge is just supposed to do pretrial things and not mess with the preliminary motion, blah, blah, blah. Well, that clerk usurped her authority and signed the preliminary injunction back to the magistrate judge. So I filed an objection to her actions, and I will be joining her as a defendant because she's colluding and not letting this process. If that was not in the rules that she could do that, nothing in the law says that she can do that, but under color of a law authority, she's saying, as I'm a clerk, I can move it. No, that only by agreement of all parties, and we do not agree to a magistrate judge. I had the same exact thing happen in my dad's case when they tried to charge him with trespass proceedings, and they tried to put us in magistrate jail and wouldn't let us out. And now they've like stayed the proceedings because they're furloughed. Huh?
Okay. I guess because I mean you challenged. See, like, I would be hesitant, but I approach things a little differently. So
Yeah.
just like put that out there. To
You
add
gotta
her as
worry
a
about your
defendant,
bar license, Goud. You
probably.
don't want to piss off the clerks.
Seriously, they already think I'm a transphobe. Although my view is you can't be phobic against something that's not real.
Right.
Trans is not real. So, I'm sure they'll come after me for my bar license as soon as they can do it.
Yeah.
But not because I'm unethical, because they don't like my political viewpoints.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, like, isn't like you're challenging the decision through the process?
No,
versus
a RICO. I'm suing.
No, I'm thinking you're challenging the clerks. What the clerk's action? You're challenging the clerk's action by filing something and having a decision made. I'm just wondering, like, why also go and add them as a defendant?
Because it's collusion, and it's going to show all of them. Anybody that colludes, and that means the attorneys too. In this, they become a defendant because that's exactly what it is. RICO is they're carrying out that under 1964. In there, it says anybody that colludes to take it is part of the RICO conspiracy too, because they're conspiring behind the scenes. I don't know if somebody told her that or if she got paid to do that. Why would she usurp her authority? If I was a clerk and somebody asked me to do that, like, the rule doesn't say I could. I'm not doing it. Yeah. So you become a part of the conspiracy when you break laws.
Okay. Mr. Producer is saying, can you talk about, in a quick 30 seconds, the difference between a magistrate judge and a district judge?
Yeah, magistrate judge is what has the legislature have created. So in this case, Congress, because it's a federal court. And the magistrate judge isn't, to me, I think they're created to protect the system because that's what all I've seen them do. A Article 3 judge is the one where the U.S. Constitution requires that a judge appointed by the president and confirmed by the U.S. Senate, that would be the person that runs the court. And that court is where that judge would preside. Magistrate judges, I don't think they understand the Constitution. And if they make a ruling, you have to go. It's like another level. You have to
appeal it to the
it delays it. If it's an Article 3 judge, once they rule, you can bounce out and go to the 10th Circuit, and that is a panel of judges. So there's less. I mean, there's still corruption there, but there's less of collusion between the judges instead of just they can actually rule on it. So it's just another layer that they tether you to.
Okay, I guess. Just my understanding is I think the magistrate is actually kind of an employee of the court, like that the court hires them to do that position. The judges are actually, to your point, appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and they actually have they're actual. Well, I would say maybe, like, I don't want to say real judges, but they're kind of more real. Is kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah. And Congress did create the magistrate judge part, so they could do that, and they thought that they were relieving that. And I think it's just a mechanism of more corruption because I haven't seen a good magistrate judge yet.
Okay. A couple comments here. We've got on that score. I guess that was not a scoring. Wasn't a 2 out of 3. That was the number of messages, not a score. Higher Ground says no. That's a great scoring range. Okay, so then Higher Ground says Carson Smith Scholarship and Utah Fits All. This is interesting. In 2022, the education industry, public and private, employed 173,695 Utahns, earning a total of $8.3 billion in wages. This amounts to about 1 in 10 Utah employees and 8.1% of statewide payroll. That is wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there's a lot of people with a vested interest in keeping certain people in power in government follow the money. Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly
that's a voting block.
Yeah.
That's a voting block for sure. Okay, so then, okay. You had as defendants former Senator Kurt Bramble and I think also Senator Dan McKay. And one of the things here you say is that they sponsored SB 54, right? I think that's part of the allegation, which I think is true. My question to you, though, is Bramble is gone. He retired. And I will just say he was a little bit, he's a piece of work. So good riddance. As for Senator McKay, he's up for re-election this year. And I'm just like, what do you maybe talk about what the political ramifications of the lawsuit in terms of his re-election prospects?
Well, this is a civil lawsuit, which probably will most likely turn criminal, but that will be the United States Department of Justice.
Okay.
So eventually, to me, they should never be able to run anywhere in election if you're going to cheat like this. But
okay.
I hope it shows people that what kind of character there were, like common sense. If you said, that's what happened when I found out about the signature gathering process. Somebody says, oh, no, somebody gets if they gather signatures, doesn't really count. And I go, that doesn't make any sense. Why have a convention process then? Like, it's common sense that would be unconstitutional. But
that's a new constitutional argument.
I'm like,
common sense.
Common sense. So for them is to sit there and be like, we're better than you. We're not listening to you people. And I get why they don't now. I get why they didn't listen to the flag, because if this is the way they're going to run the elections, an incumbent would be almost impossible to beat and to get out, because they have all the money. They have all the war chest. So it would be impossible. So I understand why they were so cocky with it. They're like, try to unseat us, Kurt Bramble, he committed the crimes while he was in office, so it still counts, and we're suing him individually. As far as Dan McKay goes, you saw the results of the elections. His wife got under 30%. So I think people in this area, they know. And once we go back to applying the law correctly and convention only, they'll start listening to the people again. Then it'll be from the bottom up, not the top down.
Well, I mean, the thing is, he's a prolific fundraiser. So I don't know do you think your lawsuit will be resolved? The conventions are coming up.
It'll be resolved.
That's a pretty fast turnaround for a lawsuit.
It will be resolved because they can't deny it. They're already trying to say, ask for extensions. And I said, no, there's already precedent that you can't ask for extension. They're like, this is a difficult case. No, it's not. It's not difficult at all. You're just trying to find an excuse to say, to come up with the defense. Well, that's not a reason to get an extension. No, you have 21 days. Answer. You've done this for 10 years. If you think this, you can just force a second chance primary, you should have the answers like that. It shouldn't take you long. I'm writing this stuff around my normal job. Like, I'm doing this at night. And so is the other plaintiffs with this, no, boys, you guys don't get an extension. You got 10 attorneys and that they're working all day long on it. So no, you don't need to. And in my argument with that, you are creating an equitable relief where Here they've got paid attorneys, and here it's we the people doing our own around our jobs. So no extension. So,
Has the court ruled on that?
not yet. It just filed. They just filed it last week. And so
Okay.
I still got to respond to the motion.
Okay. For the lawsuit itself, had you been planning this for a long time, or was this is this something that came out of the 2024 election with the, I think, obvious fraud in the gubernatorial race in terms of signature gathering? So is this something that's out of that, or does it predate that?
No. So, well, in 2022 is the first time I became a delegate. I was county delegate.
Okay.
And that's when somebody said, well, I went to my first county convention and there was a man dressed as a woman on stage. I was like, what is that? What is going on here? And so somebody said,
was he transitioning at that point? I feel like there was a weird point at which he was, because I think when I first met him, and I only moved here in 2020, so I think when I first met him, he was actually a man. And I met him and he was a woman, and I was like, or like, a woman.
Yeah, and then we were dressed, and I was like, what is going on? I thought I was at the Republican Party. But
he was the parliamentarian.
Oh, was that what he was? So
Yeah.
that's when I learned about the signature gathering process. And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So that's when I started studying a little bit here and there, blah, blah. But then it really ramped up in 2023 with the Celeste Beloy race. And I emailed Rob and I said, hey, they can't do that. That's not what the law says. And it wasn't about the signature gathering process. It was about something else.
Was it about the residency issue?
Yeah. And they were misapplying the law again. And so I said something to him. I go, stand strong and I'll support you, and I'll show you, and we can push back. That's when I learned, oh, you're not on our side. You work for them. So after that, what's that?
Wait, who was that? Who was
Rob
that?
Axton, the chair.
Oh, okay.
Because he would just blow me off and say, that's not how it works. No, that's not how it works.
That's for people that that's the Utah Republican Party state party chair.
Yeah. And so he would just brush me off, and I'm like, okay. And so then I just kept studying. I became a state delegate, and I was trying to become a county delegate for you, but I got bounced out of that. But the state delegate, and
there are other plans.
Yeah, there are other plans. And so then I kept studying, and then by August, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, this is wrong. They need to stop it. So I did that notice of intent, thinking that people would be good people and listen to me, but no, it was like freaking out. Cops called. I was like, wait, this is insane. So that's when I started even doing.
Oh, okay, hold on. Just so people understand. So you came to that. So the notice of intent is, I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is to get around the Government Immunities Act, right? You have to notify them. And then I think, but although you did this under federal law, so I would think that wouldn't apply, but
there's state law. There is state law.
Oh, just state law claims.
Yeah.
Okay.
That does say that you can do that.
And is it like you can file 60 days after that or 90 days after that or something?
Yeah, you can file 60 days after that. And I was thinking, oh, I'll just give them the notice of intent and then they'll fix that. Like, I did not know they would just ignore me. But there were good guys on the state central committee that did read it, and they were like, holy crap, you're right. We got to get you in here and start talking about it. And that's when Rob and Kim Coleman and Chris Knoll tried to have me arrested. I'm like, are you guys insane? Like, what is the big deal if I just talk? Like, all I was going to do was just say, this is what the law says. This is what it says. You guys should, the state central committee is the governing body. You guys can go to the lieutenant governor and demand that she follow the law and put your nominee on there. But it was like, no, she can't speak. Let's have her arrested.
Okay.
So
I guess,
and then it spiraled, and that's when I learned, oh, this is RICO, like that. Then it started going, and it spiraled more, and that's why it took me so long, is because I had to gather all those documents. But in the meantime, they came after my dad through the federal, so that interrupted me. to stop me, I think, from keeping going. I think they thought I went away and I was done, but little did they know I was working till 1 and 2 in the morning, writing and studying.
Okay, we got another question here. So Nanny8 says, can you tell us more about what the LG did and how she justified it when they decided to put Phil Lyman on the primary ballot, even though he won the primary at the convention? I've always wondered how the ballot was manipulated. I just want to add another piece to this. Would the issue be with putting Phil on the primary ballot, or is the issue with putting Governor Cox on the primary ballot because he really didn't have the number of signatures he needed?
No, it's putting Cox on the ballot and Phil on the direct primary because they already had the primary. It's called an indirect primary. A convention is our indirect primary where your delegates nominate. Okay. So they were disqualified at the convention. So her putting any of those names on there, including Derek Brown, that's where it created the counterfeit ballot, because she's putting.
Is it because they got more than 60% of the?
No, vote? It's because it's the convention process, and in our rules it says 60% or more go, or if 60% doesn't, the top 2 vote getters get nominated to a final ballot, and which is the direct primary ballot that's state issued. But Derek was already disqualified. Doesn't matter if he gathered signatures. Utah Republican Party does not pick its nominees like that. The Utah Constitution Party doesn't pick its nominees like that either. They use convention process. And so that's where the manipulation of the vote was. Then she turned around and did it again because she goes, we're the winners, and puts her name on the ballot and Cox's name on the ballot and Derek, and says, these are the nominees. No, they weren't. They were disqualified. The party disqualified them. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I should be able to get to vote. I should be able to have a voice. Well, you do. You have a voice in the general ballot. If you want to participate at caucus, you can participate at caucus and vote for which neighbor you want to go represent. That is where your voice is. That is the way this country was built. That is the only way we will save this country, is if we go back to that representative form of government.
Okay. So where do you see, I guess we should probably wrap up here, but what are the next steps, and how long do you think this lawsuit will take to resolution?
Well, the preliminary injunction, once it's ruled upon it, that means it rules on its merits. What
did you ask for in the preliminary injunction?
What's that?
What did you ask for in the preliminary injunction?
Let me pull it up. I don't remember what I wrote. It's been so long ago. I know. I'm like, I can't.
That's how I am with stuff. I'm like, I don't remember. That's a good look.
I'm like, I can't remember.
Too many things going on. So I'm like,
It's on the website too, and you can look. But because we're still receiving our constitutional harms, we're asking them to do an injunction to never have them gather signatures together, prevent them from gathering signatures. Like, that's coming up next year. I mean,
it's going to start very soon.
Yeah. And it says, order the defendants only certify those candidates nominated through.
Does it start actually right? Sorry. Does it start just when candidates file to run for office? Do they start gathering signatures at that point?
Well, that's when they mark on that fraudulent form whether they're seeking the nomination.
So that's like January.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead. So
that's why.
So you've asked in the preliminary injunction, you want the court to rule before that point in time, no signatures.
No signatures.
For the 26th election.
Yeah.
Only convention.
Only convention.
Okay. Have any of the defendants responded to that?
No, they haven't responded yet, but disqualifying the Utah attorneys generals from representing defendants in this action, because they shouldn't be. They usurped their authority. They broke the law, and the Utah tax dollars should not be defending them. I mean, they got 10 lawyers against pro se. Well, I thought they didn't like pro se. I guess they might be a little bit challenged there. They might be worried about something, because 10 lawyers, come on. I had 6 against me on my dad's, but
okay. Okay, so then I guess.
And I also, part of it is they can't use party funds to defend themselves.
Okay. what happens if you lose the lawsuit? Do you know? Have you thought about like strategy? What's next?
I'm not going to lose.
Okay.
If this gets dismissed, I'm going out because I already got it. Justice Timkovich's ruling, and he's been waiting for it. Like you could just see him, even when it went up to the United States Supreme Court. They denied listening to it, and he's like, I get it. It's because it's not ripe.
Who's?
So,
what do you mean, Timkovich? Oh, that's the dissenting opinion in 10th Circuit.
yeah, it's a dissenting,
Okay.
and then he's the one that explains, like, yeah, I get it. It's not right. So even if this gets illegally denied, I'm bouncing out. So.
What does that mean, bouncing out? Is this Zoomer terminology or something?
Yeah, getting out of freaking Utah and going to the 10th Circuit. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna appeal it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just
I'm not following.
See ya, I'm out of here, you corrupt judges.
It sounds like something my nephews would say. Okay, well, where can people track you?
UtahCorruption.com. Follow, sign up there. We have a Utah Corruption website, or no, Utah Corruption handle on X. We also have Utah Corruption page.
I feel like that would actually come in handy.
Yeah.
Use it for that one.
I know.
Okay,
that one's probably never going away. It's going to be going along.
I think so.
And
I feel like that you'd be like posting all the time, like, oh my god.
Yes, more corruption, more corruption. And then Tracy Halverson on X and Tracy Halverson on Facebook. So,
okay, Mr. Producer showing your website. Jonah W says, I think to your preliminary injunction or maybe your complaint, that's a lot to ask for. Do you have any closing thoughts? Mm-hmm.
No, it's not a lot to ask for. It's follow the law. That's what the law says. Just follow it. Quit forcing the illegal signature gathering upon us. So that's not a big ask, just to follow the law.
Okay. Okay, Tracy. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Good luck.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Well, I hope that was helpful. Let's see here. So anyway, you can track that, see where it goes. I think it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm always skeptical. So I'm happy, though, if people prove me wrong. No issue with that at all. Okay, let's talk about this next thing. I got to be honest with you. I have been really worked up about this. I think our establishment is on a full-on attack on Utah's middle class. And if you are a member of the middle class here and you live in one of our beautiful suburbs, you need to be awake to what they're trying to do to you, and you need to start opposing this stuff. They are out to destroy our way of life. And I say this as someone, I live in Riverton. All the homes around me are quarter-acre lots. I know all of my neighbors. Well, I mean, I don't know them all by name, to be fair, but they all definitely know me. And so, the thing is like, it's a community here. Like there's not a lot of homes that go up for sale. There's not a lot of churn. There's no high density housing in the neighborhood at all. And so you've got kind of these, it's like a really nice community. It's safe. It feels nice. You can walk around, you'll see all your neighbors. It's a beautiful place. And I just think we don't want, what they're trying to do now is to come into places like this and put up high density housing everywhere and destroy the character of these communities. See, the thing you have to understand is there's a bunch of people who live in Salt Lake City and they think that a place like Riverton has no character, right? To them, character is they get to live in their high-rise building, right? And they can see, they're like, oh, it's so beautiful. I can see the whole valley from here. And then when I go downstairs, I see homeless people all over the place and drug use, and it makes me feel so good about my life. And it's so much character and there's crime. And I love that. That's what those people like. But they want to bring that out here. And that's what happens when you have high density housing, because people don't, I've lived in communities where it's high density housing. You'll hardly know any of your neighbors. It's just hard to get to know people. Lots of churn, because if there's apartments, for example, people are going to be moving in and out of those like crazy. Condos are the same way. It just does not work. And so let's see what they're doing here. There was an article. Give me a second. What did I do? I got to find my little. I have this article that I posted about, and now I have to find it. Clearly messed up. Okay, give me a second here. It's right. It's in my X feed, and this will make sense in a minute because Governor Cox has actually proposed he's going to, and I'll tell you, if he's putting this out to the New York Post, I think this is likely to come out, and honestly, it's probably likely to pass. But they're going to pass a bill or propose a bill for this next session, which will start in January, to override local zoning laws so that they can put high density housing in our communities, even if you don't want them. And look, if you're in a suburb and you want it filled with high density housing, have at it. That's fine. And I'm happy to have those arguments within my town of Riverton with my neighbors. But I mean, like Harriman, if you want to see what happens when you fill your community with high density housing, go over to Harriman. It's crowded. And actually that crowding, I live right by Harriman, and it's all like, it floods over here. Like our streets are congested. Everything is it's gotten very over full. And it's because of Harriman, and they're full of illegal aliens over there. So they love their illegals in Harriman. Now, Mr. Producer said, who wants to go downstairs and find crime and drugs? People in Salt Lake City do. And have they ever lived in a big city? Well, that's a good question. I have lived in actual like bigger cities than what we have here. And I can tell you that this crime issue is a real issue. Drug use, homelessness. I mean, here, in comparison to what you see when you go to other places, it's much better, Salt Lake City, than other places. Salt Lake City is bad when you compare it to like a place like Riverton, but it's not even as dense as you would normally see in a city, right? So you go to like Chicago, you go to DC, New York City is like dense like you wouldn't believe, and that's just a totally different world. Anyway, let's pull up the article and we'll talk about this. Oh, you can see what I'm doing. I didn't realize that. Let's see. Can you see the article though? Sure here. Okay. So basically Governor Cox is talking about how he wants to take zoning power away from cities and use state authority to allow higher density housing. And he was talking about this something called the Ivory Prize Summit, and it's an event celebrating affordable housing solutions. Cox signaled a sharp policy shift, vowing to get more aggressive in addressing affordability. His message was clear: supply, supply, supply. Now, according to what he's saying is, and actually the article recognizes that Utah is well known and celebrated for its family-friendly suburbs, wide open spaces, and the standard of homeownership. But the median home prices are now nearing $600,000, and just 9% of non-homeowners able to afford a house. This is according to the Kem C. Gardner Institute. So it's making it harder for people to afford housing. So I understand we definitely have an affordability problem in this state. And actually, when you go around and you talk to people about it, the biggest concern when I ran for state house that people expressed to me is really that. Because keep in mind, people here have a lot of kids. This is actually a very unusual state in a good way. It's unusual in a good way. People in my neighborhood, I would say the minimum number of kids is probably 4. So it's like 4 to 8 kids. They're concerned about, are my children going to be able to live near me, right? I think that is a 100% legitimate concern that we need to figure out. But this is actually not the solution. The solution isn't to turn around and fill everything with high density housing, because I don't even think that's what people want. Nobody moves to Riverton because they want to live in a condo building or an apartment building, or even, I don't even think, a townhouse. They move out here because they actually want to live in a single family home with a yard. They want green space. They want their kids to be able to, like run around the neighborhood. I've had friends come from out of town. I remember I have a friend, she actually lives in Oakland, and I should say near Oakland, in a higher density area. And we were once pulling into my driveway, and like some kids like ran out from my side yard. And I remember she was like, can Goud, are you concerned that they were doing something in your yard? And I was like, no, I think they were just playing hide and seek. Like, I don't really care. Oh, Dairy Queen ad. I was like, what does that mean? DQ. Okay, so anyway, but the point being is like, because the community is very close knit, I don't have to worry about that. What are my neighbors' kids going to do? They're just playing outside. I don't care. But that's what people want. They want to be able to have the community. You're not going to have that if you're running around doing high density housing everywhere. And all you got to do is go to places where they have it, and you'll see there's no community. That's not what we want. And just on a fundamental level, it shouldn't be decided by the state legislature. It should be decided at the local level, right? Like in the cities, let the cities and their residents decide what they want their communities to look like. We're all aware of the need for a variety of housing, right? Again, more so than people in Salt Lake City. If you compare, I think, the people in Salt Lake City and how many kids they have compared to people in Riverton, I guarantee the people in Riverton are having more kids than the people in Salt Lake City. People in Riverton are much more concerned about their kids' ability to move here, and they're not the ones saying we want high density housing everywhere. Okay, let's keep going here. Although I will say, I think this might be Park City, and so I will just say, if they want to put tons of high density housing in Park City, have at it. Same with the benches. If you want to go put high density housing in the benches where all the wealthy white liberals live, fill it up. Okay, like 50-story high density homeless shelters all over those places. I'm good with it. Fill it with the illegals, fill it with the homeless people. Let them live with the consequences of the policies that they promote. Okay, like no problem there. But you're not, right now what they do is they support all these open borders, but they support it because it comes to our communities and not theirs. That's the only reason. Okay. Now I will say part of this push to do high density housing is this idea that development, they say development outward into wildlands invites urban sprawl. The unchecked spread of low density car dependent neighborhoods across farmland and open terrain, and that sprawl comes at a steep cost. But so then they have this 2015 analysis found that unintentional sprawl costs nearly $1 trillion per year, translating to over $750 per capita in added costs for infrastructure such as roads, utilities, and emergency services. Now, I'll just say that the study that they cite here is actually done, I think, in Australia or the UK. I can't remember, but a foreign country. And I don't really care what people in foreign countries think of how we live here. Okay, like I really don't care. And I just want to add that this isn't unintentional urban sprawl. People are choosing to live in suburbs because they are nice. You can have a nice quality of life. There's nothing wrong with that. For some reason, people in cities always have this, like they get their panties in a bunch because they're all upset that people actually like living in the suburbs, and they don't understand it because they're like, why wouldn't I don't understand? Like, I go outside my house and there's all these homeless people and drug use. I love it. It's so wonderful. It just has character. Why wouldn't you want that? And we're like, we don't want that. Normal people don't want that. You're a freak. Like, stay in the city. Stop trying to do stuff in our homes. Now, the other piece I just want to point out in this article that I think is weird is they keep pushing this idea that they said the state is on track to be 50,000 homes short within the next decade. And the median home price is now 5 times higher than the median income, a threshold economists call extremely unaffordable. I don't understand. Like, they're making these predictions about the need for housing, and I don't even know if this is accurate. What is the basis for being able to make these types of predictions? And when have they made good predictions about what the future looks like so that we should just believe them when they say stuff like this? 50,000 houses, that is a lot of homes. And where are these people going to move? Do they all want to live in Salt Lake County? I doubt it. Honestly, like by 10 years, Salt Lake County will probably be like left-wing and crazy. I would think that if you are a conservative and want to have a lot of kids, you probably don't want to live here because, you're going to be surrounded by nut jobs. You might want to go out to Utah County. Well, I don't even know if that's any better. Or maybe I go to Tooele, right? Maybe you need to go. You're trying to go somewhere where you can have a better family life. Although I will say it's very nice here, so don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that, like, we don't know what this looks like in 10 years. And will that many people move into the state? I don't know. especially if it's getting unaffordable. So anyway, but I think you should see this as what it is. This is an attack on middle-class communities in Utah. And it's an attack by people who are rich. If you go to the city, the rich people don't live in the high-density areas. They live in the avenues. They live on the benches. They live in these areas where they have homes with lots, and they are separated from the riffraff. But that doesn't happen where I live. When we get illegals here, they're living in our communities, and they're committing crimes in our communities. They're stealing jobs from the kids here. There's not a separation like rich people have. And you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff like this. Let's see, Higher Ground says the new definition of community is determined by identity politics, not geographical boundaries. When globalists say community, they don't mean neighborhoods. When you understand how they translate the term, the high density agenda makes more sense. That's a good point. I didn't think about it that way. Cause for me, community really it's my neighborhood, right? I mean, the last thing that would mean community to me is that we look the same. That to me is like, who cares? Also, I would have no community because I don't even think there's any other people. I think that I see like one Indian person one time when I was walking around. Like, I don't really think there's a lot of people around here that look like me. So I like the least of my concerns. Oh, put it through. I guess Lori Gagan is calling him. We love phone calls. Okay. While we're getting here, then we'll play this in a minute. Because I kind of want to make the point, I don't think this is the only attack against the middle class, although we only have 8 minutes, so maybe we don't have time. We have to continue this next week, because they're also doing things to make it harder for you to make a living. One of them is allowing their donors to hire illegal aliens instead of you and your children, and which also, by the way, causes wage suppression throughout the area. Mr. Producer, you can put her through for the phone call. I'm not going to be silent while we do that, though. Anyway, so I think it's like a multi-pronged attack, and I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is I think the problem in Utah is actually not the Democrats are like a minority party. The problem is the Republican Party. And I was trying to make this point online. There was a guy who was like, "Oh, I mean, the Republican Party is so corrupt," but the reality is the Republican Party is the only vehicle to be able to fix the problems in this state. The Democrat Party is it's like very nutty, right? They're pro open borders. They want to trans your children. They want to give them porno books. They want to raise your taxes. Everything you're against, they are for. Okay, I think we got a call. But so your Republican Party, the grassroots, is actually very much common sense. And so that, I believe, is a mechanism to fixing this, is we need the party to reflect better what the grassroots thinks. Mr. Producer, do we have a call?
There you go. I think we're connected. Lori, go ahead. Ask your question. Cool.
Hey, Goud. Nice podcast with Tracy. Hey, I have a question on the housing. So, and this question pertains to myself because I'm following so much, doing so much, my own podcast, still working, obviously. So how does somebody like me, follow what you're talking about? Because even though I know a little bit about the high density housing because of what's happening in Wasatch, I didn't even know about that bill that you just talked about, which is super important to every citizen in Utah. So one question is, how does somebody like me who's got so much on their plate understand and follow like that bill without having to actually follow the bill? Where do we go and how do we get involved?
Yeah, okay. I would say there's a couple things. There's not a bill yet. He's kind of giving a preview to it in the article by talking about new policies he's going to push. But if I were looking for housing information in Utah, I will tell you, I think the best source is actually Mike Carey's X handle. And that's Mike Carey 4CC. So Mike CAREY, the number 4CC. And I think he actually does consulting work for development, and he has a very deep understanding of housing, zoning, development, and he's put out really great information about Utah, our supply if we have supply issues and stuff like that. So I would follow him and look through his X posts. He does a great job, and he's a great resource for this type of information as well.
Okay, and can you repeat who I should be looking at again in X?
Yeah.
So I have it right.
Yeah, so Mike, M-I-K-E, Carey, C-A-R-E-Y, the number 4 C-C. Charlie.
Oh, see him. Okay, so he's the guy then to follow.
Best resource for
Okay.
that. And
All
then before you go, why don't you give a quick plug for your podcast? Tell people when you're on the cover.
This Thursday, we're on with Tracy Helverson, Jim Gagan, Dr. Richard Fleming. And Dr. Richard Fleming is the one who submitted the amicus for Utah corruption and the SB 50 section lawsuit. And we're going to break it down, not using all the big legal terms and not even using the big political terms, but for the average citizen in the state of Utah. Because I think it's important that the Walmart workers, the people who work at restaurants, the mechanics, the people who, are working in hotels, I think they have to understand it. And even for somebody like me, who I podcast on health and wellness, when it comes to some of the political stuff, I'm always like looking at ChatGPT because I don't understand it myself. So as Jim always likes to say, we have to break it down for a 5-year-old and we have to write it in crayon. And Dr. Richard Fleming, not only is he an MD, nuclear physicist, PhD, he is also an attorney. So we're going to break it down Thursday, 4 o'clock, same channel, KMMU. And we're going to break it down so that every citizen in Utah hopefully understands it. And that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. Okay, well, people, you can go and check that out. That'll be a good show. Thanks for calling in, Lori.
Okay, and I am following Mike Carey, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Thanks for calling in.
Okay, thanks, Goud.
Okay, well, good. It's good to have a fellow podcaster come on. Okay, let's see. Higher Ground says identity politics is ideological as well. No, that's definitely true. Totally true. We only have 2 minutes left. So like I was saying, I think the only vehicle to fix what's going on in Utah is the Republican Party. And let me just add, some of the stuff I actually think we can work with Democrats on. I suspect, I could be wrong on this, but I suspect there will be Democrats who oppose having the state override local zoning laws. Because I would think that some of those wealthy white liberals that live in Park City probably don't want the state telling them that they should have to build high-density housing everywhere. I don't know, it's just thought. And so there is an opportunity, I think, if you have people, and here's what I'll say, like, if we can fix the Republican Party, get rid of our establishment that I think is actually very donor-driven, and get people that are more responsive to the grassroots, there's an opportunity to work with Democrats on issues where the grassroots on both sides actually agree. I think zoning is probably one. I suspect data centers is another one where you're going to see grassroots agreement on that. And there may be other issues as well. But we're not going to get that as long as the establishment is in control of our party, because a lot of them they're doing what their donors want rather than taking the policies that would make the grassroots lives better and implementing those. And so I would just urge people, we've got, it's 2026 is coming up. That means that if you are not involved, it's a great opportunity for you to go and get involved. If you're a Republican, show up to your caucus, run to be a delegate, precinct chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, whatever it is, get involved, become a part of the process and help change the party and make it better. We've had massive improvements since 2020 in terms of what our party looks like and who controls it, but we've got more work to do. And I just want to also just close by saying this: don't give up. Okay, like I sometimes hear people that they give up. They're like, it's too much. It's too corrupt. we're the ones that have to save the country. And so if you guys are out there and you're trying to save the country, as Steve Bannon says, this country will be saved. Okay, so like, let's do it. And first, that applies to Utah too. Let's save our state. Just to close off, Jonah W says we can replace Nate Fluid. Hopefully. All right, with that, thank you so much. You have been listening to the Goud Crowd. I'm your host, Goud. We are on every Friday night. Oh my God. Every Monday night from 5 to 7. You can find us on my X handle, which is Goud, Goud, the number 4 Utah. You can also find us at kmmu.org, as well as on YouTube and Rumble at Utah Main Street Media. With that, I will see you guys next Monday. As always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.